Hello everyone, Lily the Deck Harlot here. Welcome to my channel. For those returning viewers, welcome back. Today I thought I would do a long belated VR to Peekaboorose and talk about my deck delights and deterrents and tell you about what I like, what I don't like in decks. And lucky for me, I actually have a box of decks that I'm getting rid of, so I'll actually be able to show you some of the decks that are in my deterrents. But let's start with the lights. And like everyone else, art plays a big factor in the decks I choose. And cardstock, not so much. Like I've been collecting decks for over 30 years, and I never noticed that it was a thing until like recently, until I came back into tarot, a few years ago. But anyway, so cardstock does not appear in my deterrents here. But let's start, and I'll start with art styles and decks that I like is actually black and white decks or decks with minimal color. And I'm showing you an example here, and this is the Heart and Hand Tarot. And it's all line drawings, which I like. And I think it takes real talent to convey images in black and white. I find once people add color, it just makes easier to convey the message they want to say. But black and white with line work, I find it's more difficult. And I wonder if it's why we don't see it more often. So this is the Heart and Hand. On the flip side of that, I like really colorful deck and art style that's hand drawn. And one example I have here is the Bonfire Tarot. And again, it's very colorful. It's tattoo style, I guess. Although I don't find it as tattooish as the 8 Coins Tarot. But, she uses a lot of color. Not sure the medium she used here, I think pencil, which I'm a fan of. If I'd be an artist, I'd probably be working in pencil and pastels. So that's one example. Another example I have is the Circo Tarot, with unusual art, colorful. You see colors where you don't expect it to see, like who has blue hair. Again with blue hair. Blue body. Let me show you another card here that's different. So Page of Wands. And following along, I'm gonna go with decks. I'm going to talk about theme decks here. And what I mean by theme decks is someone takes a subject and puts it into a tarot deck. And my delight is someone taking a theme, designing the deck, but me as a reader can read it right out of the box without having to know what the deck is about. Now, I think using the subject can be fun. It can be fun to learn about, but I don't see it as being necessary to learning the card meanings. As a reader and using the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, I don't feel the need that it needs to have another theme attached to it. But anyway, having said that, I do like themed decks that, as I said before, that I can read right out of the box. And here's an example, and this is the Herbal Tarot. which uses, Rider-Waite imagery, but they've added plants to it. So it's interesting if you read the guidebook to learn about the herb, how it applies to the card, if it does. And, just learning something new if that's one of your interests. So this is the herbal tarot. Another example is the Halloween tarot, which is fun and quirky. They have changed the symbol, but it's very easy to read. Who doesn't recognize the Two of Pentacles here? Three of Pentacles, Six of Swords, the Five of Wands, so here's another theme deck, which is an animal based deck, and it's using cats, and this is the Mystical Cat Tarot. Where you have the Eight of Swords, the Nine of Swords, Seven of Wands, Nine of Wands, Two of Cups, Five of Wands, Five of Pentacles, the Devil, and one of my favorite cards in the deck, Strength. And for my last example, and this is for mythology, and I've had this deck for this has been, I think that is one of the decks that's has been the longest in my collection, and it's the Mythic Tarot. I don't think it's the first edition, but it's the first designer. And again, it's easy to recognize what the card is without having to know the story they're portraying. So that is one of my delights. Now the next category I'm going to talk about is where again, it has to do with the artwork, but by coincidence it could be the size, because I'm talking about art that is spare. Like they didn't add details that don't need to be there. And one of them is it's the Everyday Tarot. And this is the art I'm talking about. It's simple. It's only 3 colors. These are the backs. There's not too much detail, but just enough to tell you what the card is, which makes it easy to read. It's like the black and white deck in the sense that it's, I find it takes real talent to bring it down. So that's the Everyday Tarot. Another example I have is the Mesquite Tarot. These are the backs. And that too is a deck that's very simple, not too many colors. It's not black and white, but the colors are very pared down. Here's the 4. So I have another example that I want to show you. Hold on. So I'm back. And another deck that I pulled out that where the art is really spare and it brings it down to its essence, and it's the Raven's Prophecy tarot deck. And again, you know, the artist did a really good job of taking the, you know, basic elements and rendering it in the art. And which I think is, you know, is my cup of tea. No, here's a High Priestess. So, and another segment I'd like to add is size of the deck. And like I mentioned, I have small hands. I like a deck that's small. This is the Tarot of the Trees. And, you know, actually this is kind of fun. This I think could have fit into any of the categories because it hits all of them. It's small, it's colorful, it's a theme deck that I can read right out of the box. You know, it's easy to understand. And it's my understanding that this deck was released again this year, but I mean, she went from mini size now to apparently oracle size. So I'm glad I have this one here because and last but not least in my deck delights is like a lot of people, I like the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and it's one of the decks that I reach out for anytime I have a reading to do for someone else. The thing about the Rider-Waite or a lot of the clones out there, the decks, publishers or authors will take the deck and they'll redraw the lines and recolor it. And I find there's something lost in the lines that are redrawn. Now, one of my favorite decks, apart from the yellow box, actually, is the Centennial. Because they were faithful to the original lines. And I'll probably show the ones I don't like. I have one or two decks in my deterrents of where they've played with the lines and it changed the image or it changed the person's expression, that, you know, something is lost. So when it comes to buying a recolored deck, Rider-Waite deck, I'm very picky because I've been disappointed so much before, whether it was the Radiant, the Universal, you know, like I got those decks in my hands and then I got rid of them just because they didn't suit me. So now that's my delights. So I'll stop it here and come back in a few minutes after I've rearranged my space and got organized to show my deterrents. See you in a minute. And I'm back to explain my deterrents. So I'm going to start with how I ended up with the last one I talked about was recolored and redrawn Rider-Waite-Smith text. And the one I'm going to talk about as a deterrent is this one here, which is actually quite popular. And it's the Pamela Coleman Smith by Lois Carabeo that came out 3 years ago. And I pulled some examples here. So here's a mealy mouth King of Swords. Here's the King of Cups with bug eyes. I mean, here are the Two of Cups. They're not, with the frowns on their face, they're not becoming friends, I can assure you. Here's the World. This lady doesn't look that happy. Look at the Angel here. I don't know. He looks like he'd rather be somewhere else. Here's the 3 coins, the Magician, and I know I'm being picky, but like there's something about his expression here that just doesn't compute for me. So another thing I'd like to talk about is, actually, I'm not going to take it out of the box, but it's tarot decks that aren't tarot decks. So here's the Psychic Tarot for the Heart. It actually says here, right on the box, a 65 card deck and guidebook. Well, if you're going to call it tarot, it better have 78 cards. 36 pips, 22 trumps, and 16 court cards. And in this particular deck, I think it's the court cards that they played around with where they didn't put them all. So that's, you know, the minute I see this now, it's like, no, like it doesn't matter if you add cards. If it's not 78 cards, it's like, it's not a tarot deck. So, and it's, you know, there's no appellation, I guess, for that. What else can I talk about? Let's talk about animal decks. I only have one example here, and it's the Wild Unknown. And this is the 2nd edition, I think. And although I really like the art of this card, they just don't speak to me. Mainly because I have no idea what she wants to say here by using 2 cats. You know, why is a crow the Hierophant? How does 3 crows in a tree, you know, show friendship and partying? Errata over 4 cups. I sort of get the meaning, but you know, the 2 of Swords around the sun. A tree for the Empress. So I've always had a beef with this deck somehow, because if only the designer, the author, had written a decent guidebook. Other decks. Now here's the Herbal Tarot, which I actually, you know, I really like the art on this deck. This is the back. But honestly, if I hide the title, is it obvious to you what it is? This is the Hangman. And this is the Fool. This is the Star. Yeah, okay, maybe. And this is the Moon. And my beef with this deck is that, as beautiful as the art is, it doesn't say what the card meaning is. So maybe this one, you know, sort of. This is the 3 of Earth. So yeah, the 3 baskets of raspberries. But this is a 4. And it's the 4 of air, 4 of swords. So, you know, so I find it really difficult to read with this deck out of the box. And, you know, the thing is I like herbs and I like gardening. So to me, it was a real disappointment that I can't read with this deck without using the guidebook, essentially. Or actually, you know what? It's basically you rely on the title. You don't rely on the image. And in that vein, and this is another example of something I was really looking forward to. And this is the botanical deck, which I actually just love the art style. But again, it's another one of those decks that, you know, if I hide the title, can you tell what this is? You know, even if I just tell you this, what it is, like this is the ginger, sesame, olive. So let me backtrack here. So olive is the 8 of coins. Sesame is the 3 of wands. Ginger is the 7 of spices, is the 7 of wands. Dragon fruit is the 6 of swords. And here's your 10 of cups. So, you know, I really like the art. Actually, you know what, that's right, you know what, right up my alley. I mean, it's spare, it's colorful, but it doesn't mean anything. And I think this is it. So I'd like to thank Peekaboorose for putting out this VR, even though it took me a long time to get around to it. I thought it was a really good tag, and I think one of the reasons why it took me so long is because I really had to sit down and think about it and to go through all my decks. And luckily for me, as I was saying, throughout the year, as I was working with some of my decks, the ones that didn't work out, or you know, I just put it in a box in purgatory, as some people have been fond of saying. So, but anyway, thank you, Julie, for that tag. I thought it was a lot of fun. And with that, I'm going to say have a good day, and until next time.